ARP has been making bolts for almost 50 years. Every stud, bolt, and nut we've manufactured has been made right here in the United States in Southern California. From our beginnings in the Founders Garage in the Valley, we've expanded to 7 buildings in Santa Paula and Ventura and have almost 300 skilled craftsmen and women. By keeping everything in-house, we control the quality of every step, from kit development and design to heat treat and thread rolling. Research and development. ARP develops our new kits based on new engines and vehicles entering the market and on customer interest. We design and engineer our fasteners from the ground up, using the actual engine components. We don't just measure the original fastener and duplicate it. Raw material storage. ARP manufactures fasteners that make up over 3,000 application-based kits and 2,000 dimension fastener kits. To build those kits, we make bolts, studs, and nuts in diameters ranging from number 4 to 1 1/4 inches. It takes a lot of raw materials to make all those different fasteners. Cutoff. Most of our studs start off as round bar stock, which is then individually cut to length on a specialty lathe, along with the bolts that need to be hot-headed. Most of our bolts come from coils of wire that are cut off when they are fed into the cold headers. Bolt heading. It takes 2 heading methods to create the varying types and sizes of bolts we make: cold heading and hot heading. Heading is a very critical step, and our quality control tolerances are typically 5 thousandths on head diameter and 10 thou on lengths. Nut forging. Manufacturing an ARP high-strength nut requires 2 basic steps: forging the outer surface, called a nut blank, and tapping the threads. The ARP stamp is stamped into the collar during the forging process. Pointing, turning, and drilling. ARP does many additional steps that are not done on standard commercial bolts. Pointing creates the place for the bottom threads to run out. Drilling the end removes material prior to creating the internal hex broach, as well as lightening the head on rod bolts. Heat treat. All ARP fasteners go through our in-house heat treat ovens for between 4 and 16 hours, depending on the heat treat spec for that material strength. Large studs and bolts are loaded by hand into special racks that hold them vertically to ensure even heat penetration and minimize warping. Sandblast and descale. After the parts are heat treated and quenched in oil, they are covered in a scaly film that must be removed. On materials that corrode, the bare metal is treated with an oil that prevents corrosion during the remainder of the manufacturing process. Centerless grinding. Centerless grinding ensures very tight tolerances on concentricity, diameter, and straightness on our fasteners, as little as 0.2 of a thousandth. Centerless grinding works using a slow-turning feed wheel to hold the fastener against a stop, while a large, fast-turning grinding wheel removes material under a steady stream of oil. CNC machining. CNC lathes are used to manufacture fasteners that can't be made using traditional heading or where size would make those processes too costly. Our CNC mills are used for oil pump drive shafts and custom fasteners. Shot peen. Shot peening adds compressive stresses to the surface of the fastener to offset tensile stresses to improve fastener performance. Nut tapping. All ARP nuts are made from the same high-strength material as our fasteners. We utilize custom-made thread tapping stations to ensure perpendicularity. Internal hex broach. All of our studs have an internal hex broach that is forged or machined into the top. This makes it easier to install and remove our studs. The broach should never be used to torque our studs into the block. The ARP stamp. ARP is stamped into or printed onto every stud, nut, and bolt we make. The ARP is never raised. Fillet roll. Polished carbide dies and several tons of pressure are used to add compressive stresses to the underhead radius of the bolt. The bolt head is forced against the dies and spun. This compresses the microstructure of the material in the radius. Fillet rolling is very important for fatigue-rated fasteners, like rod bolts, to increase the fatigue life. Polishing. ARP polishes all of its stainless steel fasteners to a brilliant luster so you don't have to. This is accomplished with large tumble polishers using a progression of different media to achieve the signature ARP look. Thread rolling. All ARP bolts and studs have threads that are rolled into the fastener after heat treat. Compared to cut threads and threads that are rolled before heat treat, our method delivers a tenfold increase in fatigue resistance. Thread rolling after heat treat is more costly because the tooling wears out faster, but it is the only way ARP creates threads. Black oxide. ARP black oxide finishes all its 8740 and ARP 2000 studs and bolts to help prevent corrosion prior to customer installation. Final inspection. Inspection and quality control are integral parts of every step in the manufacturing process. The final inspections and testing steps verify that all the manufacturing steps were correctly completed and that the fasteners meet our specifications. No fasteners are sent to be packed until they receive sign-off from our quality control team. Installation instructions and torque values. The installation instructions are created after the fasteners are manufactured. Our recommended torque values are developed using our torque tension machines that can apply measured torque to the actual fastener while measuring the amount of clamp load delivered at the joint being fastened. Bulk storage and kit packing. All bulk fasteners are stored with a light oil protective coating in 2-gallon pails until they are needed to pack in kits. ARP goes to great lengths to protect our fasteners from damage until they are ready to be installed. If you have questions about fitment or installation, our customer service team is ready to answer your questions via phone and internet. We hope you've enjoyed this virtual tour of ARP's manufacturing facilities. ARP is the only company in the world that manufactures fastener kits for such an enormous array of engines and vehicles. All we do is make fasteners. We take our position in the industry very seriously and continue to develop and improve our fasteners every day. The next time you see a cut-rate fastener for your engine or vehicle, ask yourself, is it really worth the risk to use anything else?